Hello YouTube, I am Arn Peter, and today I'm going to make a quick tutorial talking about basic debugging. This is like the basic of basic debugging, and you'll be following these processes regardless of whether you're in GameMaker, Java, or whatever. But I'm going to be doing GameMaker today because GameMaker's my specialty, I suppose. So I have a little program here, and the way it's supposed to work is, I run it, and when I press base, it's supposed to shoot, but gosh darn it, it's not working. So how do we fix this? So let's go into my code, and if I look in here, somewhere in here there must be an error, but I don't know how. This is a big piece of code. How do I figure out where the error is? Well, there's a couple places where this could be going wrong. Let's first check if this if statement is running through. So the way you do that in GameMaker or any other language is you do some sort of print, some sort of message to the user to indicate whether this has worked. So I'm going to do show message, and you generally want to do a very concise message explaining exactly where it's happened. So I'm going to call I'm here. That's a terrible name. You want to do better than that, but anyway, for this example, that will work. So let's see if it's getting here at all. Then we can determine if the error is in here or somewhat or up here, So I hit space and it's not working. And this is good. So this didn't work, but that gives us information. So this is what we're constantly looking for when we're debugging. We want to add a bunch of print statements, and whether it shows up or not gives us information on how the program is running. So it didn't get here, which means this if statement is having problems. So my guess is that the keyboard's not working, or that this keyboard check space isn't working because my logic is infallible, and it's probably an internal issue with GameMaker, as everything is internal issue with GameMaker. But just to be safe, let's try and figure out which if statement is failing. So in order to determine which condition is failing, I'm going to split this up into two if statements, or rather one if statement nested within the other. So I'm going to take this keyboard check, and I'm going to bump that up here and do that deal, and just create that as an outer if statement. So having these two if statements nested is identical to having them being ANDed. So I'm going to put another show message here, and I'm going to say, give it maybe a slightly more descriptive name this time, and say space worked. Still not necessarily a good one, but oh well. Alright, so we're going to run it this time, and we can determine what's going wrong. Alright, so I press space, space worked. Okay, we have more information, but other thing didn't work. Okay, so apparently my logic is not infallible, and it's my part that has a problem. So through adding these, we've narrowed down the issue to this part. Then looking at this, I'm like, oh, derp, that's supposed to be the other way around, because fire timer keeps decreasing, and once it's below 0, that means we're ready. Okay, so there you go. That's how you fix issues like that. Now I can try and bump this down there, and if we do that deal and run it, it should work. Okay, good. It's putting out I'm here. The if statement is now working, but still not making the bullet. Huh. That's odd. So something else is working. Okay, so now we determined that the error isn't in this code, because it's getting here just fine and it's creating the bullet, so it must be in the bullet. Before we get too much further, I'd like to point something out. Let's say if you had your code looking something like this, and it's something like in here, we could do the same thing, put a show message in here, and it'll tell us whether this if statement's working. But you'll notice that there's a problem with that. We've just frozen up our game, and in fact, I don't think I can even close it. Oh, I can't close it. Oh, so there's a lot of situations where you may need to print out a bunch of stuff, maybe like 100 things per second, and you don't want to have to click through it all. Maybe you just want it all printed out and you want to analyze it later. So there's a handy thing in GameMaker called show debug message. So this is the second variation. This is in general more useful. So if I press play this time, you can see it doesn't show anything here, but if I look over here to the log, it's printing out I'm here over and over and over again. So this show debug message in general is much more useful variation of the debug messages. But anyway, so it's still not working, but we've like extensively looked into this section, and it seems to be working fine. So I guess the problem with how the bullet works. And if we look in here, we notice, oh, dummy me, I made a typo here. It's needs 8 speed. And then we play it, and we'll see if this works. There we go. So now my code works. So, and usually it's because I'm an idiot, not because of GameMaker issues. Every now and then it's a GameMaker issue, but usually it's because I'm an idiot. So that is how this works. And just to give you, I guess, a real-world example, I was using this style of debugging in my Ludum Dare competition, or in my Ludum Dare submission the other day. Now I just need to find where it is. There it is. Okay. So I basically had an issue in one of my scripts. Where was it? It was in here. I was getting some sort of null pointer. Yeah, somewhere in here. I think I was trying to analyze this myLine variable, but it didn't exist. Like I was doing myLine.p1 or something like that, and it didn't exist, and I had no idea how it was happening, because you know the spider connect string is being called by my spider in the step event, and it's being called here, but it's specifically checking whether it exists before it runs there, so it shouldn't even get here unless it exists. So that means that somewhere in these, probably several hundred lines of code are embedded in these scripts. Somewhere in there, this line is being destroyed, or this object is being destroyed. And I struggled with this issue for a long time, but I just had to go through and add lots and lots of prints, and then so they basically along the lines of, oh, myLine exists in here. I would do a print statement saying myLine exists here. myLine exists in find moving online. And here I do a print statement saying myLine exists in apply acceleration or whatnot. So I just do that, add a whole bunch of them, and then once I figure out in which region the error is occurring, I add more in that region. And you want to keep doing that, and you're not changing the code, you're not fixing anything, but you're narrowing down the possible region of error. And it gets to the point where you have a small area of code and you can just see what the problem is. Yeah, so if you're looking at my first example, you might think, oh, I can just look through and figure it out. With something like this, you're going to have a lot more trouble just looking through it and figuring it out. So this is a very important skill to develop as you do more stuff as a programmer. Alright, so that's all for this video. I hope you found it useful, and I look forward to seeing you next time. So I'll talk to you later.